I know it's long overdue, but let's talk about NASCAR's return to Chicagoland. Welcome back to Talkin NASCAR. I'm Andrew, your host here for today's show. It's been a little while since we've had one here as of late. It's been a little over a week since I've posted the last episode of Talkin NASCAR, but I wanted to take some time off for the 4th of July. I had a lot of fun stuff planned for this past week, and I think it's safe to say I maybe you know, maybe overdid my little vacation, a little hiatus from the show. But today I'm gonna pace myself a little bit when it comes to all the news that I missed from the time I was gone. So we're just gonna be talking about NASCAR's return to Chicagoland, the first time the series has been back to the track since 2019, which was pre-pandemic. So let's go ahead and start off by talking about the winner from this past weekend in Chicago, Chase Briscoe, picking up his first win of the season. But for me to fully, describe, at least in my view, the way that Chase Briscoe won this race and everything this meant to him, I got to go back to last weekend in Sonoma, which was a race that, I covered right before I went on break. Chase Briscoe found himself in the final laps of last weekend in Sonoma, running down Shane Van Gisbergen and doing a very good job at keeping Shane Van Gisbergen honest. It was not an easy win for SVG. It took a mistake from Chase Briscoe, pushing as hard as he could to pass SVG and maybe get the first win of the season. Because Chase Briscoe, it's been a very underwhelming year for him and that entire 19 team. They just have not had consistent speed, and when they do, it usually doesn't end with the result or the finish that I feel like they deserve, or most, like even that team feels like they deserve. So we had seen that several times so far this year, and I was wondering if Chase Briscoe was going to be able to do the same thing. Sonoma, he made a mistake trying to go for it, being aggressive, did not get the win, but it was easily one of the best races of the season for that 19 team, maybe alongside Nashville. This past weekend in Chicagoland, he found himself in that third stage with a chance to mix things up on pit strategy. Crew chief of James Small, one of the most one of the better crew chiefs in NASCAR, one of the more high profile crew chiefs in the sport. They had a chance to make some aggressive pit calls to go and get this win. So whether they do, they end up short pitting William Byron, the leader, and end up taking the lead over William Byron. And in that final run, though, it wasn't smooth sailing for Chase Briscoe because he had his teammate of Christopher Bell running him down, similar to how Nashville was going with Bell. Bell looking for his first win of the year, like at Nashville. Same thing occurs here this weekend in Chicagoland. Running down his teammate. Last time it was his teammate of Denny Hamlin. Ended up battling with Briscoe and Hamlin in Nashville. This time it came down to just mano a mano of Briscoe versus Bell. Two drivers who have had very underwhelming seasons so far this year. Both are looking for their first win of the year. Christopher Bell is looking for a little bit of comfort heading into this final stretch of the regular season with that broken wrist. You just don't know how well Christopher Bell is going to be able to perform on many other tracks. And so this week, it was Briscoe having to be the one that had to be a little defensive and hold off the hard charging runner up finisher right behind him in his own teammate of Christopher Bell. And Bell made it close. He kept Briscoe honest like Briscoe did to SVG last weekend, or 2 weeks ago in Sonoma. So Bell did his best, got it within under a second, was on the back bumper of Chase Briscoe heading down into turn one on the final lap. It looked like maybe Briscoe would maybe lose the lead, lose the win to his teammate of Christopher Bell. That's how good and how quickly Bell was charging up to the lead. But Chase Briscoe was able to hang on to the victory off of turn four, claimed his first win of the season, holding off his teammate of Bell, making it another runner-up finish to another driver and again to another teammate in his own organization. So a very tough way to finish if you're Christopher Bell. You got to be satisfied with the second place finish though. But once again, more heartbreak for that entire 20 team just with everything that's happened so far this year with the broken wrist. So many runner-up finishes so far. So many wins that were right there but can't quite close the deal. So instead of Bell walking out there with the win, it was Chase Briscoe, his teammate, finally claiming the first win of the 19-team season. And this was huge for that 19 team as well, because coming into this past weekend in Chicago, they weren't entirely safe. One bad race puts them closer to the cut line than further away from it. It doesn't help them at all. So this was another pivotal race for this team. Last weekend in Sonoma, or 2 weeks ago in Sonoma, was a very big one for them. Again, runner-up finish was beneficial to their points. Got some major ones there. Was able to give themselves a little bit more of a cushion on the playoff, or excuse me, the chase cutoff line. But it's not like this team can ever take a week off. They are not safe at all. If another driver below the cut line, like Joey Logano, like AJ Allmendinger, like Ryan Preece, Ross Chastain, Austin Cindric, if one of those guys gets a win, they move up in the points very, very far. They move up like a couple spots. That's just how big and how important wins are. They reward so many more points compared to previous years. Like winning your in was, made wins very significant in the playoffs last year. Wins still matter a lot. They matter so, so much. They give you so many points and can turn your season around and change the course of the stretch you're going into. And this was the case for Chase Briscoe. He was close to a win in Sonoma and unfortunately didn't come out of it, but it was definitely a sign of momentum. They needed to keep that up, though, since they didn't have that win. Now, with this win, they jump all the way up into 8th, inside the top 10. They haven't been inside the top 10 all year before Chicago. Now they are in 8th. This was a huge race for this team. I mean, he almost earned max points. He had 70 out of 76 points up on the table. I don't know why I couldn't say points for a second. But regardless, this was huge for this 19 team, and it would have been huge for the 20 team as well. Again, Bell has been like on the fringes of being in the top 10 all year long. He started inside the top 10, but has just faded throughout the entire year and kind of, standing pat at 10th or 11th, not really moving forward at all. And it's been kind of frustrating for that team. If they would have gotten a win at any of the races they would have been in contention for, were any of the tracks that they got runner up at, the Coke 600, the 600, Nashville, this weekend, once again in Chicagoland, it could have turned their season around. Same for William Byron, who's had a very mediocre year. This would have been huge for that 20 team as well, but it was huge this time for the 19 team of Chase Briscoe and company. Let's go ahead and move on and take a look at the top finishers from this past weekend in Chicagoland. Denny Hamlin rounds out the JGR top 3. Very good weekend for Hamlin. He started on pole once again. Very solid race for him. I believe he was top 10 pretty much all night long, earning some very solid stage points all night long. William Byron swept the stages in both stages this time, so a very solid race for William Byron. We'll take a look at the chase standings because, again, while he didn't win this one, and it was definitely tough for that team to lose out on a win, which I think has probably been their best chance to win a race all year long, they definitely had a good one, though, and definitely helps out their chase position, so we'll take a look at that in a moment. Alex Bowman in 5th place. What a drive for the 48 team, and over the last couple weeks, Bowman's been finding some speed. Sonoma last weekend got a top 10, now top 5 at Chicagoland. This is definitely, a very good stretch that Bowman is entering. We'll see if he's able to keep this up heading into Atlanta. He's not the best super speedway racer. He's not, a guy that you think of. He's not a Penske car of Logano, Cindric, Blaney, or some of the other Ford drivers. But, Alex Bowman's definitely got to keep an eye out for heading into this weekend in Atlanta. Bubba Wallace, another Toyota, actually had the fastest lap of Chicago, finished inside the top 10 in 6th place. Big race for him. It's kind of been an up and down stretch for Bubba, but still, another top 10 for him. He's on the chase bubble. He's in the chase bubble, so it's huge for him as well. Ryan Blaney, another top 10. Ty Gibbs, Corey Heim in the top 10 once again, proving that he is very, very solid when it comes to these mile and a half with 2311 racing. And then Riley Herbst, the guy that he replaced, top 10 result once again for Herbst. I believe I saw that he was fastest in practice last weekend in Chicago. So very strong showing for Riley Herbst. He's not outside the chase conversation as well. Him and Zane Smith have been really, turning it up as of late. So again, we'll take a look at the chase standings in a minute because this race was very interesting nonetheless. Chase Elliott in 11th, solid day from him. Logano, 12th place is going to help his chase positions a little bit, but he's really going to have to turn it up moving forward if he wants any shot at making the chase. Atlanta might be the chance for him. Cindric as well, helps his chase position. He's in the chase right now, but 13th, he's going to have to do a little bit better if he wants to keep that position, especially with all the unpredictability moving forward. Daniel Suarez in 14th, another top 15 for that team. Eric Jones as well, another guy in the chase bubble position. Todd Gilliland in 16th, very solid run for the 34 team in Front Row Motorsports. Allmendinger, Chastain, and Buescher in 17th, 18th, and 19th. All three of those guys looking for a chase position. Buescher's actually in the chase right now. He started in third. Kind of a rough night for Chris Buescher, finishing a lap down. But Allmendinger and Chastain also in the chase conversation as well. Brad Keselowski and Carson Hocevar, 21st and 22nd. Very rough nights for them. Not a lot of speed. Keselowski started fourth. Just did not have the pace tonight. And Hocevar, we'll talk about him in just a moment because there is something that happened. SVG in 25th. He ran into some trouble with Austin Hill in this one. We'll talk about that in just a moment. And then very big names outside the top 30. Ryan Preece, 32nd. Larson, 34th. And Reddick, 36th. Preece is still looking for a chase position, but definitely not going to help out his case here. Finished the lap down. He on the first lap of this race actually got caught up in a crash. Went multiple laps down. Maybe looking at a chance to grind out a semi decent finish, but ultimately was not there for that team. Larson got spun out off of turn 4. I believe he was running second or third. He was running up inside the top 5, but spun out off turn 4. Got some damage to the underwing of the car. Just could not move forward for the rest of the night. So tough night for the 5 team. And then Reddick had a mechanical issue in the middle of stage 1. I believe it was he lost oil pressure. Like he had an oil issue. He had a water issue, as like a coolant issue as well. So there was just a lot of fluid on the side of the car. So big issues for Reddick. He did get back out on track, ran some laps, finished 30 laps down though. So tough night for that team as well. And also a tough day for Connor Zilic. He wrecked out on the first lap as well. Had a hard impact with the inside wall. Did not even complete a lap. So that is a very tough stretch of races for Connor Zilic. I got to feel for him. Like, as much as like it's been rough for him and like his rookie season has just been disastrous, not all of it is on him. Like, it's just been a lot of, being unlucky and getting caught up in crashes. It's not his fault. Like some of these, like it's just air. Like he's not used to this car, and we've seen it. Like we saw it last year too at like the Coca-Cola 600. I remember he got spun out. So I maybe could have seen that as writing on the wall for how tough this rookie year would have been. It's definitely an adjustment for Zilic. Very drastic kind of turnaround for him after all that success he had in the O'Reilly Series last year. So definitely, very tough for Connor, hoping that maybe he'll get back on track in Atlanta this upcoming weekend. Now, backing up real quick, I talked about Zane Smith, Hocevar, Shane Van Gisbergen, and Austin Hill. And the reason I want to talk about them again is because there's a little bit of controversy for these drivers. We'll start with Zane Smith and Carson Hocevar, and we have to go back to Iowa last year, which I believe was the first instance of, at least at the Cup level, a bit of, clashing between the two. Carson Hocevar ended up spinning out Zane Smith in the middle of that race. Zane Smith tried to pay Carson Hocevar back, and Zane Smith ended up wrecking himself out and wrecking another Spire car, so wasn't amazing for him. And there's some more updates on the story that we'll talk about in the next episode of Talkin NASCAR. But anyways, Zane Smith, Hocevar made some contact. It's been a while since that incident occurred. We have to go back, I believe, to 2 years ago in 2024, maybe. I think maybe 2025. I think it was last year actually in 2025. It was at Iowa. So it's been a while since Zane Smith and this Hocevar incident occurred. Now we're maybe seeing Zane Smith, maybe issuing some payback to Carson Hocevar. So this was definitely something that, caught my eye because it just looked like, at least from the in-car camera, Zane Smith didn't lift as much into, I believe it was turn 1, and didn't give Hocevar enough room and just hit Hocevar in the left rear, sent him up the track. Hocevar got a little bit damaged, Smith as well, and I think they both ultimately paid the price a little bit because Carson Hocevar, again, he's in the points, a chase position right now, but he's not safe if these races continue to go bad. Finished in 22nd, and then Zane Smith in 28th. So again, this is kind of continuing a stretch of races for Hocevar where he's been paid out a little bit. We go back to San Diego with Corey Heim. He got spun out, and that was the first time Hocevar had really been paid back for it. In the Hocevar spun out Heim in the 2023 Truck Series Championship, and maybe there might have been some controversy between Zane Smith and Hocevar in the Truck Series because they had been racing there for a while before Hocevar and Smith both moved up. So I don't know about that. I might have to do a little bit more research on that, but we'll have to wait and see on there. But anyways, that was one of the first big controversies, and not too long while not a lot later, very shortly thereafter in stage one, SVG got into it with Austin Hill driving in the 33 car for Richard Childress Racing, and it was a similar thing heading down to turns 3 and 4. Austin Hill tried to come down, maybe fill the bottom groove, and Shane Van Gisbergen didn't lift. He held the bottom groove and, you know, drove into the left rear of Austin Hill, and that sent Hill up the racetrack, hit the outside wall very, very hard. Significant damage to the 33, and it ended the 33's day. Now, this could be more payback from more recent races. Go back to Pocono. Austin Hill may have been the contributing factor to SVG spinning out off turn 3 at Pocono and ended up being a terrible day for that 97 team. Then we go back to San Diego a couple weeks ago. Austin Hill missed the corner heading down to turn 1 at San Diego, made a mistake, ended up catching Zilich and SVG, and it seems like SVG was not happy about either one of those incidents. And Richard Childress said it himself on the radio at Chicago this past weekend that this might have been payback for California, San Diego. So, yeah, this is definitely a very interesting little scenario that between these two incidents. And there's more to talk about for these incidents, but I just want to leave it at that there. And I don't know, at least from just looking at these two incidents, it's hard to tell if these were intentional. And yeah, it's just very interesting to talk about. I don't really know if these were intentional. Like we can't know. I don't think it's an Austin Hill, Indianapolis with Eric Almirola type incident from last year where you could clearly see Hill turn left into Eric Almirola's right rear and sent Almirola hard into the outside wall. It's not like that. But we have seen in the past where at mile and a halfs, drivers have been suspended and penalized for intentionally wrecking a driver. I look most recently at Bubba Wallace at Las Vegas back in 2022, where he intentionally spun and right rear hooked Kyle Larson down the front straightaway, ended up collecting Christopher Bell, was a very dangerous high speed crash. And NASCAR, what they did? They penalized Bubba Wallace, they fined him, and suspended him for the next weekend's race at Homestead. And NASCAR is not issuing any penalties to these drivers. However, they are going to be talking to both pairs of drivers. They're going to be talking with SVG and Austin Hill on Saturday. So tomorrow at the time of this recording, probably when you're listening to this, they're talking to them today. And same thing with Zane Smith and Carson Hostward. They are not going to issue any penalties because they could not find any evidence of intentionally wrecking a driver. But I still am conflicted on whether these two drivers should be penalized, Zane Smith and Shane Van Gisbergen. I'm not quite sure. It's yeah, it's just a weird situation because it wasn't a right rear hook, but it was also a situation where maybe these two drivers, SVG and Zane Smith, were not willing to give much leeway to Hocevar and Austin Hill. It's a very interesting situation. So I don't know what entirely to think about it. You guys are going to have to let me know down in the comments what you think about these two incidents between Zane Smith and Carson Hocevar and SVG and Austin Hill. Now let's go ahead and take a look at the in-season challenge update heading into Atlanta this upcoming weekend. First up, let's talk about the first matchup. It was between Alex Bowman and Austin Cindric. Bowman, once again, will be moving on to the third round. He will be taking on, I believe, the 34 of Todd Gilliland, who is the 25 seed. So we'll have a 32 versus 25 seed in Atlanta coming up. So that'll be very, very fun to watch. Then Chase Briscoe was able to beat his teammate of Ty Gibbs, so that's another one of my picks down and out. I did not have Briscoe advancing past Allmendinger, and I don't think I had either way. I don't think I had Briscoe getting past Ty Gibbs. Yeah, that's a rough pick as well. And then Chase Elliott will be moving on to round 3. He was able to beat Michael McDowell. Denny Hamlin beat Eric Jones as well. There goes another one of my picks. I had Chris Buescher moving on to round 3. Christopher Bell, who advanced out of round 1, beat Chris Buescher in round 2. So it'll be Hamlin versus Bell in round 3 this coming weekend in Atlanta. So that should be a very interesting matchup. William Byron ended up being his teammate of Kyle Larson. Not one of my picks either in this one. So my bracket is not looking good whatsoever. So that's a little bit of a tough one. And then Ryan Blaney moved on past Shane Van Gisbergen to take on William Byron in round 3. So Blaney is still alive. So is Chase Elliott. So my final matchup pick for the championship is still alive. Don't know if it's gonna last after this weekend in Auto Park or Echo Park, excuse me, in Atlanta. So we'll have to wait and see on that. But yeah, very interesting round 2. Larson was definitely the big surprise out of this round. Probably Bowman probably was another big surprise. I don't think anyone had Bowman moving out of this second round, but also had him finishing top 5 in Chicagoland. I don't think anyone had that on their bingo card heading into this weekend. So that's an interesting one. I don't know how many people had Briscoe moving on past Gibbs. I think some people did, but I definitely know I didn't, and I'm not the only one. I know for sure I'm not the only one that had that on their bracket. Looking at everything else, I don't know if people had Bell moving on past Busher. I definitely think people would have picked Bell over Busher. So I may have in my episode last weekend, I might have picked Bell to go past Chris Busher. Just like maybe like a really aggressive pick. Same thing with Briscoe. I don't think those are aggressive picks, more or less, but they're underdog picks when compared to the higher seed. They're underdog picks, so I think I might have had one or two of those. I definitely think I had Briscoe past Ty Gibbs. I might have had that last week when I did a round 2 preview. I might have done that last week. I can't exactly remember, and I really don't want to go back and listen to the last episode to make sure on that because it really doesn't matter anyways. And then I think a lot of people probably have Blaney moving on past SVG. That probably was, an easy pick. But yeah, you guys are gonna have to let me know how cooked your brackets are because I know for sure mine's not looking amazing. I still have my final 2 picks of Elliott and Blaney. But yeah, that's really all I got left. But now let's go ahead and take a look at the Chase standings. As I already mentioned, Chase Briscoe with his win moves up into 8th place. Christopher Bell remains in the top 10. Daniel Suarez actually falls out of the top 10 into 11th place, but he does have a 100-point buffer over the first driver out of Ryan Preece. So Suarez for now is safe, but again, anything can change and everything can change in a blink of an eye in this sport. So same for William Byron. He's got, a pretty solid point advantage as well. Bubba Wallace as well. He's got a pretty solid point advantage. But then we get down to Shane Van Gisbergen and Austin Cindric and Eric Jones, the last 3 drivers in. SVG's only in by 30 points, and there's no more road courses left through the next for the entire season, let alone the regular season. So it's going to be interesting to see if SVG can hang on. Austin Cindric is only up by 27 points over Ryan Preece, and then Eric Jones is only up by 4. So that's a very close battle between Jones and Preece. Then Joey Logano is out by 16. Same with AJ Allmendinger. Brad Keselowski is out by 19 points. Michael McDowell, don't sleep on him. There are a couple super speedways coming up. He's only out by 34 points. Chastain in the one, again, don't count him out either. Super speedways are going to be a chance for Chastain. He's had better speed as of late, so let's not rule out Ross Chastain. He is out by 36 points, so a little bit tougher for Chastain, but again, that can be made up in no time whatsoever. And then guys like Zane Smith, Riley Herbst, Todd Gilliland, Ricky Stenhouse Jr., John Hunter Nemechek, they're all out by a little over 80 points. Nemechek's getting closer to 100, but I think he's like 90, 95, I think, is Nemechek out by. So I would say the big contenders, the big drivers to watch out for are Zane Smith, Herbst, and Todd Gilliland. Maybe Ricky Stenhouse Jr. as well, because Stenhouse is very good on super speedways, and we have 2 of them coming up to end the regular season with Daytona and as well Atlanta this upcoming weekend. So Stenhouse could make a move, but it's going to be tough for him to, make that move. Same with Todd Gilliland, another good super speed racer, Zane Smith as well. Riley Herbst, I wouldn't say it's impossible. It's not looking, it's going to be difficult for both Zane Smith and Riley Herbst and Gilliland and Stenhouse. Like they have to be, be really good at the super speedways and be, top 15, like borderline top 10 if they're going to be legitimate chase contenders over the next couple weeks. But let's not rule out Smith, Herbst, and Gilliland and Stenhouse at all. And Nemechek as well. Like Nemechek, is the guy that I'm least confident about. Like I'm ready to pretty much write off Nemechek because he's just been so inconsistent this entire year. He's only had, you know, a stretch of 2 good races where he's able to be in top 20, 30 in points. So I'm not really, ready to completely write off Nemechek, but I'm closer than I am on a guy like Herbst or Zane Smith, even Ross Chastain as well. And Alex Bowman, he's a guy that I would watch out for, especially if he does have a good weekend in Atlanta like he did last year, where he finished second behind his teammate of Chase Elliott. Bowman's inside the top 30 in points now. Granted, it is, quite a big difference for Alex Bowman. I mean, it's almost 150 points, but with the way that Bowman has been running, I'm not, completely writing off Bowman yet. If he has a stretch of bad races, then it's over for Bowman. But with the tracks that we have coming up left and the speed that Bowman has shown these last couple of weeks at Sonoma and Chicagoland back to back, and Chicagoland's a mile and a half, by the way, and that's a track type that Bowman has not had speed on this entire year, that entire 48 team. Maybe this team is finding their stride just late in the going. They're going to make a late push and make this look like somewhat of a competitive season. Granted, like just given the circumstances for Bowman this year, and maybe save his job. But yeah, Bowman's not entirely out of it. Austin Dillon is, for sure. No confidence whatsoever in that 3 team. I'm sorry, Austin, but yeah, you're going to have to go on a magical run to really be in the chase conversation. But definitely keep an eye out for the guys: Zane Smith, Herbst, Gilliland, Stenhouse, maybe Nemechek, maybe Bowman. But definitely the guys to watch out for heading into Atlanta this weekend: Priest, Logano, Allmendinger, Keselowski, Michael McDowell, Chastain. Those guys are in striking distance to make up a whole lot of points in Atlanta this weekend and the rest of the way towards the end of the regular season. Meanwhile, guys like Suarez, Byron, Wallace, Shane Van Gisbergen, and Cindric and Jones, they're not all safe. And I would argue Bell, can't let off the gas too much. Though he does have a pretty comfortable points advantage, he can't let off the gas very much because, again, things in this sport can change in an instant. All right, but now it is time to move on to the final segment of today's show: my race review rating. All right, so for this weekend, NASCAR's returned to Chicagoland Speedway in Joliet, Illinois for the first time since 2019. I thought this was a pretty solid return. It was a really good, really great return. I know I keep changing, the adjectives, but the more I think about it, the better it is. It truly was a very solid race overall, and being that it was the return to a track that hasn't been used in 7 years was awesome. It was a sellout crowd in Joliet, Illinois. The fan turnout was amazing. The first time being back at that oval. The O'Reilly race was very, very solid. We'll talk about that tomorrow. We had a thrilling little battle at the end between 2 teammates of Bell and Briscoe. Had great racing throughout the entire night. Pit strategy as well, that played a factor with Briscoe short pitting and undercutting William Byron on that final pit stop cycle. Very, all around very solid race. Had good racing. Had a little bit of drama with, SVG and Austin Hill and Zane Smith and Carson Hocevar, but, that was awesome. Its tempers flaring a little bit in the first race back. It's pretty cool overall. I really wish I could have been there in person to see this one, but I'm completely fine, waiting for the next one because, this one, for all the people that got to go there and witness this race, pretty sure it was a really awesome treat to watch. So, with all that all in mind, I'm going to give the return to Chicagoland Speedway, the eero 400, I'm going to give it an 86% for my race review rating. It's a B rating. I think it has the potential to be a B plus. I think, yeah, the more I think about it, it should be a B plus, but I'm going to stand firm with 86. A very solid race overall. Great race weekend. Again, sold out for the Cup race. Started in the daytime, late afternoon, finished under the lights in Chicago. A little bit of weather in the area on Saturday. Still was a phenomenal race overall. So I can't wait for NASCAR to hopefully continue using this racetrack more because mile and a half with the next gen car is awesome. And being in the Chicago market is very important. I can't think of a better combination. Good racing, big market. Who's heard of such a great idea? But 86% is the rating for the week for the eero 400 at Chicagoland Speedway. Let me know down in the comments what you would have given the eero 400. Would you have given it a higher score? Would you have given it a lower score? Let me know down in the comment section below what you think about this past weekend in Chicagoland. I know it was a bit overdue. I took a little bit of a too long hiatus, but trust me, I'm going to pay for it tomorrow when I have a ton of news to cover from the NASCAR world, so stay tuned for that and more. But that's going to wrap it up for this episode of Talkin NASCAR, everyone. Hope you all enjoyed. Thank you so much for returning, coming back, tuning in. I really appreciate it. If you haven't already, make sure you follow the show so you never miss another episode of Talkin NASCAR. And if you like what I'm doing over here, go check out Talking Sports with Miles and Andrew. I'll have links to the Spotify and YouTube channel down in the comment section, or the description below. I almost said the comment section. Description below. Me and Miles talk sports, whatever the big breaking story is. Story. Man, it's my first time back in a while, and I'm already rusty. That's not good. Got a lot of sports content that we have over there. We just interviewed NFL safety of the Indianapolis Colts, Hunter Wooler. That episode is up on the show, so go check it out. It was really fun to make that one, and it was really fun to make this one as well. So links in the description to that show and to this one, Spotify page and the YouTube channel if you want to follow over there as well. Make sure you're following on all platforms. I don't know, you do you, whatever you want. So thank you so much for tuning into this episode of Talking NASCAR. I still don't know how to do these outros, but hopefully I'm going to figure it out soon, because I might need to if I'm going to continue to do this. So yeah, thank you so much for tuning in, and I will see you tomorrow for the next episode of Talkin NASCAR.